So the Turkish Get-Up's an exercise where you start on your back and then you stand all the way up and hold the weight overhead and lay back down. Wanted to put it around a good cause, so raised a bunch of money for veteran mental health and suicide prevention, which is close to my heart. My grandfather passed by suicide and he was a veteran. And so set the date is February 22nd and was able to beat the record by 55 pounds. Guinness is a business and they're in the business of letting people break records, and you can either apply with a new record that you want to do, like, most podcasts talks, and, set some sort of standard that they can track, and then they will either accept your application or not. But if there's already a record, you still have to apply. They let you know within 3 months if your attempt is, valid, and then they send you all of the rules for the record. I never thought I could run an ultra marathon. I'm a bigger guy. Right now I'm like 240 pounds. And so there's not a lot of ultra runners my size. And so I never identified as a runner, but breaking through those perceived limitations was something that was really intoxicating for me.
What's up, everybody? This is Simon on this episode of the Ideal Hour. I got Mike Aidala. He is a person that actually holds a Guinness Book of World Record in a Turkish Get-Up. I had to look that up. It's 255 pounds that he did. I've never done one, and I probably can't even do it with a weight. He is also a performance athlete. He played college football, stand-up paddle boarding, which is awesome. So I think you've done that competitively. You also do some coaching, the founder of The Offense, and we're going to talk about all these things that you've done, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting with you.
All right, so Turkish Get-Up World Record. Why? What is that about?
So the Turkish Get-Up's an exercise where you start on your back and then you stand all the way up and hold the weight overhead and lay back down. And it's a great full body movement. And I've always enjoyed the Turkish Get-Up as an exercise. It plays into some of my strengths, like some odd object lifting. And I think I saw the record was 177 pounds a while ago. And then around Christmas time, it was 200 pounds. And then I knew I figured I could beat it around that moment, but then wanted to put it around a good cause. So raised a bunch of money for veteran mental health and suicide prevention, which is close to my heart. My grandfather passed by suicide and he was a veteran. And so set the date is February 22nd and was able to beat the record by 55 pounds.
Well, that's not just a beat. That's a pretty astonishing weight gain. And how long did you train for that? Because it's a Guinness Book of World Record. It's taken seriously.
Yeah, I about 6 months ago, almost 7 months ago now, I was doing a lot of ultra endurance training. So that exact opposite of the weightlifting. But then I started to get stronger, and I think I shot for the record maybe 2-3 months.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. How did you reach out to Guinness? Did you say, hey, I could beat this record, or what? How did that play out?
Yeah, so the way it works is Guinness is a business and they're in the business of letting people break records, and you can either apply with a new record that you want to do, like, most podcasts talks, and, set some sort of standard that they can track, and then they will either accept your application or not. But if there's already a record, you still have to apply. They let you know within 3 months if your attempt is, valid, and then they send you all of the rules for the record. So for this one, you had to record it from 2 different angles. We had to get a special calibrated scale and show the weights. Had to get a certification on that scale. Had to get people who were certified in Turkish Get-Ups and like kettlebell movements to witness it and sign off on the lift. And then send all that stuff in and, cross your fingers.
Wow, man, that's crazy. So, it costs some money on your end to do that. They don't cover it, right?
Yeah, it can. I mean, if you want to have someone from Guinness come out and watch your record, they cost somewhere like $14,000.
Oh wow.
And so I that was too much for me. I couldn't afford that. The application's $5. But then if
That's
you
a
want
big
to,
difference.
yeah, I mean, if you want to speed up like the application process, they offer something where you can pay it's like a couple $100, and they let you know in 5 days. So that's what I did on the back end. I wanted to know that my record was secure.
That's pretty cool, man. And a couple people recorded it, helped you out. I assume buddies and people you were training with.
Yeah, it was great. We had over like 100 people plus came to watch. And so that was new for me because I've always usually lifted in the gym by myself, but having, 100 of my friends and family close by, watching me do this very technical movement, it was fun and challenging.
You mentioned you did it for your grandpa, and may he rest in peace. And suicide is a very big thing, and I've had multiple people on the channel talk about it. So it means a lot to you, to your heart, and I'm sure to him. If this record, is it something you're going to try to hold on to? Because obviously you said records are meant to be broken, but if someone tries to challenge it, are you coming right back strong and reclaiming your throne, or what?
I think it depends when they do it. Right now, for sure. I know I can probably even do more than the record right now, as I'm continuing to get stronger. But if someone tries to break it in a few years and, I'm into paddling across the ocean or something else, I don't know. Maybe I'll just, because I know how difficult it is to do that.
Yeah, I got you. I believe it, man. 255 pounds, ridiculous. You've also done a lot of like triathlons, right?
I've never done an official triathlon, but I've done a lot of ultra marathons.
Okay. Tell me about those. What is the mindset for that, the prep, and how has that helped you with everything that you do?
Yeah, so I've always historically not been a fan of running, especially distance running. I was a football player, so I like sprinting, and I played basketball. But a lot of my friends, I live in Colorado, and they're very aerobically fit, which means that they have great endurance. And they were going to do this hike called the Rim to Rim to Rim in the Grand Canyon, where you start at the South Rim, you run all the way down to the bottom, you run along the Colorado River, you up to the North Rim, and then you come back. And it's like just under 50 miles and a ton of elevation gain and loss. And so I will always like a good challenge. I like spending time in nature. And so I was like, all right, let's do it. And so that got me into endurance a little bit more. And then, I caught the bug. Like, I never thought I could run an ultra marathon. I'm a bigger guy right now. I'm like 240 pounds. And so there's not a lot of ultra runners my size. And so I never identified as a runner, but breaking through those perceived limitations was something that was really intoxicating for me. And so I dived all in about 2.5 years ago and have run I put my medals up behind me because I'm proud of them.
I love it.
And so I've done like 15 plus ultra marathons, which technically is anything longer than a marathon. There's like a 50K, 50 mile, 100K, 100 mile, and that 100 miles the farthest I've gone.
My God. And let me ask you, I hate running. Like, I am the worst runner. I also like the sprint. If I exercise, I'll do the assault bike, quick in and out. I do it for training. But running has always been, I don't know if it's mental or I got weak legs or weak lungs. Like, for you, I would imagine in the beginning it was tough because you weren't really into it. Or did you just go into it and you were able to do 2-3 miles, no problem?
Yeah, Simon, something that I was learning about you before this podcast was your insatiable curiosity. And I agree. I have the same thing. And so with running, I didn't understand my energy systems. And so I was learning every single run about myself. And that became more exciting to me than the pace or the struggle of running. And so I learned about my metabolic zones, where if I push on an assault bike, that would be like a zone 5 where I redline. I feel really good. I actually feel like I'm training. My heart rate's sky high. I'm exhausted afterwards. And so in my mind, I'm like, cool, I did something. I worked hard. Like, check the box. But with aerobic training for long ultra endurance things, you need to train a zone 1 or a zone 2, which I had never done. And so that's letting your system learn to utilize fat as fuel and taking, and not letting it get into an anaerobic spot, which basically means your body releases lactate kind of into the muscles, and then it's hard to clear that lactate through the muscles, and so your legs feel tired, and that doesn't feel good. And so when I first started running, I'd just go out for a jog. I could jog like an 8, 9, 10-minute mile, no problem for 5, 6 miles, but then I would start to get tired. But when you train aerobically, you force yourself to go slower so your heart rate doesn't reach into that zone where you release the lactate. And so it required a lot of discipline for me, because my first mile was like a 15-minute mile, because my heart is used to just going sky high. Mm-hmm. And so I had to train it to be low, like 153 beats. And so when I get to 150, I'd start slowing down or start walking. It would get to 140, I'd start running again. It's to get to 150, walk again. And I did that walk run for a month or so. And then eventually, this took 2 years in, my heart rate could be at 150, but I was running an 8-minute mile. And so I wasn't getting as tired.
Interesting, man. I totally agree with you. I feel like it just, you burn out if you got that mindset right away. And I noticed that in everything I do. It's kind of, even in like MMA or when I train jiu-jitsu, the guys are like, bro, you're stiff. You're like a rock. You're going to burn out. They're like, you got to be a wet blanket or whatever. You know what I mean? And just flow. And my thing is, if I
think that I can't hear you. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
I could hear you. Can you?
I'm sorry. I think the audio.
No, it's all good. We could cut it out. Let me know when you're ready. I'll just keep talking. Okay. Yeah, I'll repeat it. Yeah, and when I train, in anything that I do, I burn out all the time, and everybody that I train with, they're like, you're so stiff. You're like, I'm sure my heart is pumping, and that's what you described earlier. Did you always have like a knack of curiosity? You mentioned it earlier, and it kind of led you to this path of not only coaching, but also trying these new things and continuously pushing yourself to the next level?
Yeah. As far as I can remember, I loved playing. I loved being outside with my friends. And ultimately, I didn't know it at the time, but I really liked learning. I just didn't like learning in school at a desk. And so now I can learn, things that I'm interested in and dive as deep as I want into those things. And one of them is my health, my wellness, my peak performance. And so that's what I'll use with my company, The Offense, to help people live a life of offense, where they're, taking advantage of their energy and pushing themselves forward and taking action versus kind of just sitting in that back seat and being more reactive to life.
Let's talk about your company, The Offense. And I know, like, for example, I've seen your Instagram's great Instagram, and Jesse Itzler follows you. He's a big timer in the run scene, I know, and also in the coaching and all that. And kind of just getting startups going, sold his company. I think it was Marquis Jets. What is The Offense about, and what's your typical client, and kind of why did you start it?
Yeah, so my history was actually strength and conditioning. So I worked with a lot of athletes, a lot of professional athletes. And what I found was I loved the space from the field house where we do a lot of the sprinting work. We'd change, we'd walk into the weight room, and then we would do a lift. And in that space, you're talking to the athletes about, interpersonal stuff like their relationships, what they're struggling with. I helped a lot of athletes in NFL combine prep for a season. So guys that were like the best in their college or their division, and then they're going to try to run a 40-yard dash, vertical jump to get drafted higher in the NFL. But there's a lot of nerves going on there because this is like the moment of their life. And I always enjoyed those conversations. Of course, I also like getting bigger, faster, stronger. Those things are fun. But that dove me into a bunch of introspective practices, a bunch of holistic health, and viewing the world through that lens. And so that was, over 12, 15 years ago. And I've just been studying all things related to that now. And so The Offense helps people look at their health in a holistic way. And we especially focus on the mental and emotional aspects of health. So a lot of our clients are type A people who are really driven in their business or with their financials, but haven't put that same energy into their mindset or maybe their emotions. And it makes sense. There's not as much of a scoreboard in that other arena. Fitness there is. So a lot of them are really fit or understand working out, but it's difficult to quantify like my communication skills or my confidence or those type of things. So a typical client will be someone who feels like things are pretty good. Like I'm operating at 70, 80%. And, could be doing really well, on the outside, but internally I'm struggling because I know there's more to close that gap and I just don't know how to close that.
And with an athlete, how much is it mental? I mean, I'm sure you've seen some athletes that are, built like a horse or as flexible as the next yoga instructor coming into a combine or even, in anything that you've done. How much is it mental? Is that a big aspect or is it kind of 50-50?
I mean, really, if we break it down, it's all mental and it's all based on nervous system. Our brain tells our body what to do, and the best athletes are the best at sending that signal. And so that same kind of correlation can happen with, like believing in themselves or like, when they're stepping up to the plate at the bottom of the ninth or the fourth quarter of a game, like being able to stay present, stay focused with the task that they need to execute is everything. Often the best athletes, though, or not often, the best athletes operate in a flow state, which is a term of positive psychology, and which basically is you're completely dialed in and focused on whatever it is that you're doing. It's the state that we all love. It's the state that you're in when you're having sex, hopefully, or when you're, like on that final part of a sprint workout where all you can think of is just like one more step, like get going there, or you see a musician on stage singing and they're just totally killing it, like they are in a flow state. And if we can get into that flow state in all aspects of our lives, then we increase the way that we can perform whatever we're doing, whether we're talking with our kids, washing the dishes, writing an essay, having a client call, it doesn't matter. And so the easiest way I like to describe getting into flow is if you think of a graph, on one axis is the challenge and on the other is your skill. And to get into flow, you need the challenge to be high enough to require all of your skill. If, I'm just learning that you like to do the assault bike, so I'm going to go with that. If I said your workout today is 1 calorie on the assault bike, that's it. That challenge is probably too low for your skill, so you're going to become bored. But if I tell you your challenge is to do 1,000 calories in 30 minutes, that's probably too much of a challenge for your skill, so you'll become anxious. And so if I can give you the appropriate challenge, maybe it's like every minute to do 12 calories for 20 minutes. That might be like, oh shit, okay, I got to really focus on this in order to get it done. And so I take that same formula and apply it to basically everything that I do and everyone that I work with.
That's wonderful, man. Yeah, no, it sounds like if you challenge too low, it becomes too easy. You get bored. You challenge too high, you can't achieve it. You give up. But there's that fine line of challenge and then maybe incremental increases based on individual ability.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that I think is there's such an art to goal setting. And so often we just throw arbitrary goals at the board, and then we struggle to find discipline or motivation to that. But if you can really take all of that energy and put it into the correct goal, you're not going to need discipline or motivation because you have the right goal.
I see. You mentioned earlier you played college football. Which school did you play for and what position?
SUNY Cortland. Okay. They won the national championship 2 years ago. It's a Division III school in upstate New York. And I played middle linebacker, outside linebacker, and then safety.
Oh, man. Which of those three, which was your favorite?
For sure, I liked playing safety. Yeah, it was interesting. In high school, I was a corner and a quarterback. And then that's actually when I learned how to weightlift because my college coach said, you're super athletic. We're going to put you at middle linebacker because we want you to gain some weight. I was maybe 190 pounds. And so I met a guy who taught me how to weightlift. I gained like 35 pounds that summer going into college and played linebacker. But I like to move, run around, be in space, intercept the ball, chase after receivers,
crack
come down.
Somebody.
Yeah.
I gotcha. what's the trick to weight gaining at that? Is it eating and working out, and or is it mainly eating and protein, or what would you say is the biggest factor in that, since you've done it quickly?
Yeah, you have to be in a calorie surplus, period.
Calorie surplus.
You got to be eating more than you're using.
Are you a fan of like all these, a lot of guys around take either creatines or, supplements, like something processed? Are you more holistic, or is processed kind of calorie? I think it's mass gainer, for example, one of those. Is that a no-no? Is it good for your kidneys? What are your thoughts on it? Or your stomach?
I would say there's definitely I would suggest eating real food as much as possible, and it's hard, especially to get as much food as you need in order for your body to recover. I was reading this book now, I forget the exact title of it, but it was about Lewis and Clark and how they go up the Missouri River. Mm-hmm. And in that book, they talk about the men who are pushing this boat up the river eating 8 to 9 pounds of meat a day.
Oh, wow.
That caught me off guard, but I also do a lot of studying on old time strength and weightlifting. And like the old time strongmen back in the late 1800s, early 1900s have many journals talking about 7 to 8 to 9 pounds of meat a day. And so I think our body, at least from these two things, like can handle that. But I don't know anyone that eats that much, protein a day.
You're gonna upset all the vegetarians listening to this. I'm kidding.
I think I don't take a lot of supplements myself, but I have taken creatine, and I do like the cognitive benefits of creatine and the recovery benefits of that. But I've never taken creatine for the goal of just getting bigger. I took mass gainer when I was 14, but that was it.
Yeah. What about like a testosterone? Have you seen a lot of your athletes or anyone in your program take testosterone as well for whatever reasons? Is it something that you've dabbled with or have experience?
I don't have any personal experience taking testosterone or anything like that, but I have had clients who are in their 50s who have taken it and have enjoyed it. But I'm not an expert in the testosterone field, so I wouldn't want to lean anyone towards.
Sure. And by the way, guys, we're not doctors, so check with your own doctor, whoever's listening out there. Let me ask you a question. Paddleboarding, it's fun, but it gets competitive, right? What I notice in life is like there is niches for every single category out there, and there's always a group of people that are like diehards. Whether you're a diehard tattoo fan, you'll get a lot of tattoos. You're a diehard paddleboarder, skateboarder, whatever. And there's really a niche for it. Like this is all the people, that's what they identify as, right? Like they identify as someone with a label on it. Paddleboarding, is this like a serious thing that's coming up in competition, or is this something that's a little bit smaller?
I think it's been a serious thing for a while for those people, but if you're not in that ecosystem, then you're not going to know about it. But yeah, there's Laird Hamilton was a guy who got me introduced to paddleboarding. He's a big wave surfer. Him and his wife, Gabby Reese, now have this company XBT. But even before all of that, I would just see this guy standing up on a board and propelling into it with this paddle and thought that was so cool. And so I looked up paddleboarding and met now friend down in Costa Rica who runs stand-up paddleboard surf camps. And so he'll teach you how to surf with a paddleboard, which is so much fun because you're already standing up. Like the hardest part of surfing is getting yourself in the right position and then getting up on the board, even if you're in the right spot. And so with the paddleboard, it kind of feels like you're cheating. You're standing up, you have this big propeller, you can see the waves coming from far away, you can pop right into the wave. And so true diehard surfers, I think, don't like paddleboarders. I've never heard anything like that because I don't go into the middle of a lineup. I just kind of hang out on the sides or find a different wave that there's not many people by. And, as long as you're sharing just like regular shit about life, don't take everything, share, you're good. But yeah, anyway, to answer your question, I do think paddleboarding is a popular sport.
Man, surfer beefs. So I guess they don't like paddle boarders. I never do that. I've never done surfing. It's it's something challenging for me because water was always a challenge as well. But that's interesting, and I got to try it. So did you compete like in a paddleboard competition before, or you just do it for fun?
Yeah, I have competed before. I used to live in New York, and I would compete in the local competitions around there. Actually did a competition in Costa Rica, and it's paddleboard racing is what I would do. So, just like a triathlon, people have a specific kind of paddleboard. There's many types of paddleboards, just like there's many types of bikes, depending on what terrain you're on. Mountain bike, road bike, city bike, triathlon bike, same thing on a paddleboard. And you take this 14-foot board and you can race people with it. So I did that for a little bit, but then I really enjoyed the surfing aspect of it. And then I found out about this race where you paddle from the Bahamas to Florida, 82 miles across the ocean, across the Gulf Stream.
Oh, wow.
And so that reintroduced me back to paddleboarding after I'd taken a little bit of time off. And I live in Colorado now, so there's no ocean. I like paddling on lakes, but it's not like the most fun thing for me to do.
Would you move to a place that doesn't have, or move to a place that has an ocean to get that mindset back, or at least get that paddleboarding or the ocean? Because it seems like you like the ocean. Why not potentially move one day? You know what I mean?
I like a lot of things, and the ocean is definitely. I used to live in San Diego, so I tried that, and what I found was I was never alone in the ocean. There was always other people, and which is fine, but I do really connect with nature, and I like being in wild places. And so when I moved to Colorado, I can run to the mountains 1.5 miles from my house and be completely alone, or maybe see a couple people if I'm on a trail. But that for me was more valuable, and I would love to travel to the ocean and go paddleboard there. And perfect world, multiple homes, be able to do all the fun adventures.
Mike, you want to be left alone. I get it. You want to disconnect.
I just need that recharge time so that I can show up better in other aspects of my life.
No, that's so important. Not a lot of people understand that, especially like if in relationships and just like in general, people need their space to recharge. It's huge. I'm one of those people. Like I need like maybe an hour or whatever just of calm. And I think that's why people surf too. If it's not as crowded, I think they're out there and they're enjoying themselves and listening to the water and the waves and all that. All right, let's talk about young athletes. I see on like Instagram, on YouTube, kids nowadays. I mean, I feel like with technology kind of that developed, there's a parallel to how athletes are developing, these young kids. I mean, computers used to be slow and big. Athletes that are kids nowadays are shooting 3-pointers like they're Steph Curry, throwing the ball far. They look like they're adults in high school. I've watched them in mixed martial arts, and they're doing moves that I'm like, oh my God, this guy would be a trained killer in like 5 years. You know what I mean? Like they're flexible. What are you seeing with, the development of just athletics in the youth?
Yeah, I'm not too much in that world right now, but I do think that people get really obsessed with certain things, and if you're viewing externally, other kids your age, it makes sense that you're going to want to try and do the things that they do, get motivated by that. Like when I was younger, I didn't get to see that. I just got to see the kids in my school. And so I would try and do those types of things. And maybe if I played on a travel team, I could see what other kids are doing. And so I think it's human nature in a certain way, but I don't know.
You're saying like social media is kind of leveling people up for higher challenges, so to speak, and maybe the ease of travel?
I think so, but I think it's a double-edged sword, especially for kids as they're, maturing and trying to view who they are. If they're constantly viewing and judging themselves based off of things that they see on the internet's huge. A lot of people have it. There's so many ways to kind of like make yourself not feel good or compare yourself on the internet. And when you're 12, 13, 14, plus years old, and you're starting to develop a personal identity, that can be difficult. And so, I don't have a 12 or 13-year-old right now. I have an 8-year-old, but we really try to let him do the things that he enjoys doing and not pushing him to try to be something that he's not.
Do you ever worry about it? Like I have, obviously I'm a parent as well, but I have friends that, are also parents, and they try to push their kids, especially the boys, like to kind of be like them, or to kind of, let's say, go along in their martial arts class, or follow their footsteps. Like, for example, Jordan's sons, none of them played basketball, you know what I mean? Or were successful at it. LeBron's son is obviously in the NBA. We could debate why, but and I'm sure you have your comments on it. But do you see like parents getting stressed out trying to push, or you getting stressed out trying to push your son into a direction that you see them molded in, kind of way?
I've definitely seen that. My personal belief on it is I want to show as many opportunities for all aspects of life, and then support the ones that he's curious in.
I like that.
If it could be the same ones, like that's cool because I can help more in that direction. But if it's something I don't have experience in, I'm very curious and probably will want to help support and find classes or workshops or whatever it may be to support that.
I gotcha. So I guess if he's not going to be a runner, you're not going to be upset about it, and you're just going to move on. I got you. All right. Well, let's talk about your company again, The Offense. What's the most common mental block you see with people coming in? Is it just confidence, or is it more?
It's usually a lack of clarity. I don't know what to do with my life or what to do next.
And is this company, would you say, like personal coaching as a space, is it a profitable space for entrepreneurs that have a specific skill set to get into that they feel like they could share? Or is it difficult to break through the barrier of being kind of that performance type coach?
I think the number one thing you need as a coach is you have to really care. You have to really give a shit about people. And if you have that, then you'll be a great coach, because people need other people to believe in them, to help give them certain resources, to hold them accountable. But if you're not trying to do those things and just trying to tell people what they should do, it's not going to be successful, because we're already getting so much of that on our own. Like, there's that word should that I think is so detrimental, because it's an external expectation put on someone else. And so my goal is to never use that word, and to never have my clients ever use that word, because it gives them the opportunity to think, what do I want, or what do I not want to do, and then take action towards their intrinsic truth versus leading a life of other people's expectations. Leads to what I was saying is the biggest struggle, which is not knowing what I really want or what to do next.
It sounds like also if they're motivated by money, which is kind of what a lot of these performance coaches are motivated by, it's not the right avenue for a client as well. You got to pick up a coach that truly cares, to your point. Let me ask you, there's a lot of these coaches we see nowadays. I don't know if you know a lot of them or not, but let's say like Andy Elliott. What's your thoughts on him? Because I've seen a mixed bag of people with that vibe, and some people kind of going, this is a little cult-like or weird. What do you think about stuff like that?
I think I know the guy you're talking about. He's the one that takes his shirt off a lot, and he's kind of like drill sergeant.
Yeah, drill sergeant, bald, yelling at people. In some sense, I'm sure it works for some people, but some people are like, this is kind of weird, and it's expensive too. I know that these guys charge like $2,000 for a seminar or whatever, just to attend, which is ridiculous. And then $100 a minute on some of these websites to speak to them, and they promise a life-changing thing. And what are your thoughts on all that, man?
Yeah, I think it's tough in the coaching space, because as you mentioned, anyone can kind of be a coach and can charge people, and they can come up with some type of scheme or some type of thing that they think is beneficial. I would say the number one thing to look for are testimonials when you're looking for a coach. Find either Google verified testimonials, video testimonials. I often will have people that I have coached that will offer to talk to new people. So, hey, if someone's curious but they're not sure, they want to talk to someone, I'll gladly talk to him for 5-10 minutes. But I don't know Andy Elliott per se, but I will say anything that you're maybe shaming other people for or trying to give them that tough love, people are already pretty tough on themselves. And so, yeah, you might be able to like slap someone awake for a second to go take action, but then they're have to find that motivation through that slap. And so then they need through you. You know, I'm not a great businessman in terms of I want to get myself out of a job. I don't want you to necessarily need me all the time. I want to teach you about yourself. I don't know my clients, they know themselves, but I can ask a lot of questions. I can provide certain frameworks. I can kind of clear through the space that's in their head, and then they can take the action. And at the end of the day, it does change people's lives, because if you think there's this one thing that I want to do, but I'm so scared to start this business, I do believe that, X coach can help me start this business. I'm going to pay $5,000 to work with them. I paid the money. Now I'm super invested in it because it's probably a decent amount of money for me. Now I'm going to take the action to start the business I really care about. And I start the business, and then I feel great. And I feel like I'm moving in that direction. So it's not the knowledge per se that you're paying for. It's the systems, the process, the end result that you're paying for.
So you're kind of catapulting somebody into the action and making sure that they're doing it. And obviously, whatever fee there is, that fee gets justified because they're doing what they want, or they start. That's kind of the big goal. And so give me let's say I hired you, or let's say someone listening hires you tomorrow. Let's say they're trying to start a business, or they're trying to better themselves in whatever way. Give me a scenario of what the offense will prepare for them, and kind of a routine or a blueprint that you'll lay out to see performance is reached.
Yeah. So all my clients start off with the intake form, which is the most important thing, because I have to jump into their shoes and see the world how they see it. And so I look at their physical health, how they're sleeping, eating, recovering, exercising, their social health, their friendships, their relationships, their emotional health, how comfortable they are sharing, feeling, expressing. So all these different aspects, their mental health. And from all of that, I can see certain blind spots or shadow aspects that are stopping them from achieving the goals that they want to achieve. Most of the time when someone's ready for coaching, they've listened to the podcast, they've read all the books, they know all the Huberman things to do, like they know all the stuff, but they're struggling to go through. And so depending upon what it is that they're struggling with there, the way I run it is we do a phone call once a week. I have an app that will put our call notes, the notes that I want them to focus on, the different frameworks or maps or models. And then I'm checking in with them between those calls to make sure they're doing that work. And that work can take 5 minutes a day, work can take an hour a day. Depends on the time that they have, what their goals are, and what they want to accomplish.
What are some of, like, without naming obviously anybody, what are some of the cool success stories you've been able to achieve that made you feel proud as well?
Yeah, so many. I mean, a lot of them really are like improving their relationships with themselves, which is a hard thing to quantify. Like, I loved myself this, and now I feel like this. But they share that, and that feels really amazing for me. Or they jump back in with their marriage, or they have that better relationship with the kids, or they leave a job that this one guy, he used to work at Twitter, and when it was Twitter, and he left Twitter and he started a kombucha company, and his kombucha company does pretty well. And so, he felt like he got stuck with these golden handcuffs. He was just punching the clock, doing something that he didn't believe in. And we talked about, like, well, what is a successful life to you? What are your true values? We have different ways, which I'm happy to share too. And then from that, what are the actions you're taking, and how can we align those with the things that you're telling me? And when that happens, people feel great. Like, people don't feel good when their true beliefs or values do not align with their actions. The closer you can get those things to fully align, the better you're going to feel about your life. And then, money, fame, success, all of those things don't really matter. Like, that's the equation of success.
As far as your own kind of lifestyle, your own kind of staying in shape, obviously to be a coach, you got to be in shape and really, be the part, right? You can't talk to somebody about improving their life if you're eating Doritos on the couch watching Netflix for, majority of the day. So what do you do to maintain your training? Obviously, you beat a Guinness Book of World Record, but how are you continuing your training physically as well? And how important is that to you?
Yeah, the physical training is really fun. That's an easy thing for me to do because it's usually based off a goal that I'll have. So whether that's a run or a Guinness record lift or some other type of lift, that's a skill that keeps me motivated. It puts me right into that flow chart where I'm going after that challenge. And so like right now, the skill is trying to get stronger. There's a lift called 2 hands anyhow, which is an old time strongman lift. And the record has never been beat, even by modern strongman, Schwarzenegger, anyone in the modern era, where you basically have to lift 2 separate weights from the ground and lock them out over your head. And the combined weight of both of those implements is the total. And so there's this guy, Arthur Saxon, who set the record at like 1905 with 448 pounds.
Jesus.
And so that's what I'm currently moving towards.
So it's a deadlift kind of where you're lifting it over your shoulders or neck.
Yeah, I mean the thing I like about it is the puzzle is in the name. It's 2 hands anyhow. So any way you want to do it, you just have to start with the weights on the ground and finish with 2 overhead. So it can't be a bar connected and held with your hands. You could do 2 dumbbells. You could do a dumbbell and a kettlebell. You could do a barbell, 2 barbells, whatever it is. So it
doesn't matter what the weights are as long as it's weighted over.
Yeah, it's just you gotta do. It's gotta be heavy, and so like it's really hard to just to hold 150-pound dumbbells, bicep curl them up, and then push them overhead. And so what the style that I do is I get a barbell on the side, which is kind of called a Steinborn squat. So it's a vertical barbell, right? You load it with weight. You put the clips on so the weight doesn't come off.
I'm trying to do it.
You put it on your back and squat it up. Then you jerk it overhead. Then you go to 1 hand. So now you're holding a barbell with 1 hand over your head. And then you bend over and pick up a kettlebell, lift that to the shoulder, and then push the kettlebell overhead. And the combined weight of both of those is your score.
What are you at right now? How much farther do you have to go?
So my best is 400 pounds. It's 325, 1 hand in the barbell, and then 75 in the kettlebell. And the record is 448 pounds. So I'm 49 pounds away from the record.
Dude, you're a beast, bro. You're freaking strong. Let me ask you a question here. What are you going to add to the barbell, or are you going to get a bigger kettlebell? That's the big question here.
I think the barbell. Yeah. I've held 400 plus pounds overhead with 1 arm before. But for me, the hardest part is getting the weight to the position and then making the transfer. So I think now, like on a great day, maybe I could hit 420 pounds. But to close that final gap, that'll be a good challenge.
Are you worried about getting injured? I mean, this is like a lot on your back. You're working your core and back muscles to balance it and also kind of get the angle right. Are you worried about injury at all, or have you gotten injured doing this?
No, I'm not. I'm not worried. Did you go away?
I'm still here. I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Sorry about that. Yeah. I think I got a phone call and get off. I'm not worried about getting injured at all, to be honest. I know my body really well, and so I can understand how for someone who's never done it before, it sounds crazy, right? It's like 1.5 times your body weight over your head with 1 arm. But I didn't just start there. I've built up to that. And so my nervous system is really attuned to those smaller movements where I can't just like hold the bar and move my arm around, do all these things. Like it's got to be in the perfect spot at the right time. And if it starts to go out of that spot, I have a very short window of trying to save it. Otherwise, I drop it on the ground and get away. And so like the thing that I'm fortunate to have is space to actually do the lift.
Are you practicing like in your garage, or are you practicing in your backyard? Where are you doing it?
Yeah, I'll do some in my garage for sure. And then I have some buddies that own gyms. And so I'll go into the gym in like an off hour where, I have a lot of space. I've never done it in like a Gold's Gym or like a Crunch Fitness or something where there's not a lot of space. But I love like CrossFit style gyms because they're really big. And so I don't do CrossFit, but I can go and work out at that space.
Oh man, that's good, man. Oh, that sounds terrible. I don't know. I think you're gonna get it, because you sound very motivated to do it. But that's incredible that you could lift in one hand. I mean, the most I weigh $155. The most I benched was 250, like around 250, somewhere around there, whatever the increments is. So 225 plus 10 and 10, it's 22, 245. So 250, so 255, I think, is the most I bench, which was pretty good at the time. But now I can't even do that, which sucks. So you're going to be disappointed in me. You might have to coach me back up to it. All right, let me, if you could do 3 exercises for the rest of your life, what are those 3 exercises? That's it. You could pick your top 3.
Okay, me personally, I would do a handstand. That would be one.
Why?
For fun. Well, it's really fun, and there's a lot of ways to get into a handstand and things you can do while you're in a handstand. So that'll be a good like upper body strength movement. I don't know anyone that's like really weak or unhealthy that can hold a handstand.
I gotcha. Interesting. Is there a Guinness Book of World Records for a handstand weight push-up?
Oh, good question. I'm not sure, but I might be close to. Yeah,
you're gonna be beating it. I got it.
Maybe. Another one would probably be a pull-up and then a squat.
Pull-up and squat. And working the whole body. All right, and your go-to meal for training is what? Do you eat a lot of meat yourself? Or
I do, yeah.
Yeah, very good, very good. All right, and then as we wrap up here, Mike, I always ask everybody, a piece of advice you would give to yourself when you were younger, if you could go back, let's say time machine type of status or Back to the Future, what would that be and why?
I would say just be honest with yourself. Just be honest in general. I think a lot of my personal pain and of just people's pain in general comes from being dishonest with what it is that they truly desire. And so we lead a life based on the expectations of our parents or our friends. And the more that happens, the weaker the signal gets from the truth that we really want. And I spend a lot of my time now trying to like increase that frequency so I can hear that. And I spend a lot of time helping other people increase that frequency for themselves so that they feel good about the life that they're living. Because if you don't feel good about it and everyone else around you feels good about it, it still doesn't add up. It doesn't matter if you have millions or billions in the bank.
Love it. To your point, live for yourself, not someone else. And I appreciate you coming on, Mike. We're going to link your information below. Guys, if you're looking for personal coaching for performance and all other aspects that Mike offers with the offense, please do check out his Instagram. We'll link it below. Mike, thanks for coming on, man. I look forward to an update on your next challenge in terms of Guinness Book of World Records. And do let me know if you're going to be now entering in the biggest handstand weight vest record as well, because I'm sure it's out there. And I would imagine it's probably I'd say in the 200-pound weight vest size. That's pretty intense. But anyway, man, thanks for coming on. I hope you had a good time and appreciate you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Simon, as well. It was great. And I'm definitely looking forward to chatting more in the future.
Cool, man.